Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we are here with our first team report from the World Championships, and I am joined by top 8 player Abdullah. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Feeling good. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm finally, recovered from the jet lag coming back from Japan, and I am really excited to talk about the first ever time that you have lost a Pokemon tournament. It's crazy to say that,
Oh my God.
but I guess first, for anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Abdullah. I go online by Sempra. Worlds ended up being my second tournament ever. Vancouver's my first one, which I ended up winning. Worlds, I came fifth. Yeah, I really like weather. I don't like tournaments, so I don't go to them. No, I'm just kidding. I love tournaments, but that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, and so so like you said, you won Vancouver regionals, and I think you won like 2 premier challenges, got some points at the global challenges. Really, managed to make it to Worlds with only one big event. What was your thought process going into Worlds? You know, your second really major tournament ever.
I don't know. I feel like for a lot of players, there's like two selves. There's two viewpoints to yourself. You know, one side of me was telling me, this is the event where I have to perform because, like one thing I always hear is, he needs to prove himself just a little bit more. One event isn't enough. And the other side of me was just very, very excited and very, very, very grateful to be in Japan to be able to compete at the World Championships. It wasn't cheap, and I feel like gratitude is something a lot of people take for granted. Like that's that definitely doesn't make sense. But I was just very, very grateful to be there. So going to the World Championship, I was a little bit like conflicted. I didn't know whether to be like happy had I gone 6-3 or it was 7 rounds, right? Had it been 4-3, I don't know whether I'd be happy or sad. I don't know like what I would I be okay with. So I was just very conflicted. I don't know what to expect. So yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is just another tournament, and you just gotta, I think, just prepare for it like it's another tournament. Obviously, maybe a little more intense. But this is also a weird tournament because it was the first tournament of a brand new format. So talk to me about your preparation, your team building, and how you ended up building the team that you ended up using.
Yeah, so I consider myself a player who, I like taking past events or very recent events, very recent meta developments, and I like, you know, coming through with a team that just beats it all. Like that's my favorite way to approach a format. And so Worlds is literally the complete opposite. It was just, everyone thinks of Worlds as the format where every hidden piece of, tech you have, every hidden team you have, everything you have just comes out. But Worlds was very different in the fact that there was just one event for it. You had a couple online competitions, but there was very little to take away from, anything but what you felt like was working. And so I felt like, I was a little bit upset to feel like I was at a disadvantage, but, my team building approach definitely ended up being, this same as old, right? It ended up being taking past formats, taking what was good and seeing what got better. And for me, like evidently that ended up being Rain. Rain was just incredible. Series one, Jody with his Rain team, and a bunch of other Rain teams. Series two, Rain slowed down a little bit. It was the Sun team that just ended up taking over. But Series three, Rain came back with a vengeance, and I just felt like Rain had, it didn't lose anything. It only gained tools. Like in past formats, we had to deal with either Palathin completely messing up your tempo, or Azumarill who's just very, very, very weak and very slow. Now we had Urshifu and we had Basque Legion, and I think I sent you the Basque Legion team. I was working on this team, and I was so happy. This is the first team I've ever built myself from scratch, and I was so happy with it because it felt like I felt like somehow in a way I had taken my past experience from past formats. I love weather and I love rain, and I somehow had taken that and made a team I felt comfortable with, and yet felt very strong in a new format. So that was my approach to team building. It was taking what I knew as best as I could in an unknown format, which is it's kind of tough to do, especially because again, right, like we had no tournaments to base anything off of. So I was very proud of myself when I came up with this. It just felt good to build something myself that was actually working because I'm not a player that team builds.
Yeah, so I got the team on screen. You got the Basculesian King Gambit team that you said you started out with. How did you end up? Or I guess why did you end up changing from this team to the Urshifu version that you ended up using?
Um, Basically, this team just had a couple holes. One of them being Chiampao. I don't know how it happened, but Chiampao ended up being even stronger and even better in this format than past formats where I feel like what do we call the power level was lower. Somehow the power level increased, and at the same time, Chiampao got even stronger, which is just wild to think about. So I never covered for that. At the time, priority spam was everywhere, hyper offense was everywhere, tailwind was everywhere, and this team had very, very few tools at the time to deal with that. Right, you kind of had to be faster than your opponent with your basic legion, or you had to find a way to set up Kingama, which was very, very hard to do against a lot of tailwind teams at the time. I guess it requires you to know the format at the time. At the start of the format, it was super hyper offensive. Urshifu in every team, and yet Urshifu was 252, 252. Like, it was just madness. It was chaos. And this team didn't deal with that very well. And overall, like, some pieces just didn't work. I took too many pieces from previous formats, such as King Gambit. King Gambit, I feel like, is just, I wouldn't say a troll pick. I don't want to say anything's a troll pick, but it was just very, very, very weak in this format. And so I felt like I needed to make changes, and I eventually stumbled across Turan, and some other friends who were playing a team with the same six Pokemon, and I felt like that team was just perfect in every way, and it covered exactly what I wanted to do with this team. With the bulky steel type, which ended up being Gholdengo instead of Kingambit. The rain mode, which ended up being Urshifu, ended up beating the Chiampao weakness I had, because Urshifu just deals with Chiampao much, much better. And so overall, I feel like it did what I wanted to do with this team, but much, much better. You had Chiampao Iron Hands for the Tailwind mode. Hyper Offense wasn't an issue anymore. So, I felt like I made a team, and then I had discovered a team that just did exactly what I wanted to do, but better.
Yeah, and so I know that you said you found this team. I know Tyrone is Tyrone's playing in a lot of online tournaments with it. Mike, Tommy, Sohaib also working on it. Did you work with them at all on this team?
Yep. Yeah. So at the start, I was working with. It was actually I was actually working with Tub, and we were all working on Rain. I feel like it was very scattered at the time, and eventually Tub ended up liking the Tailwind version. A lot of them went for more, and I just didn't like Tailwind. I don't think it's weak at all. Of course, multiple high performances with Tailwind. Tailwind is definitely not weak at all. It just wasn't my team. And so I ended up, branching off from the Tailwind mode. And, through Jody, who I have to thank Jody for everything. Like you said, we'll get a time to do shoutouts, but Jody just, this project was incomprehensible without Jody. And through Jody, I ended up talking to, the rest of the players playing this mode, Taran and Mike and Dandy and, everyone else who was playing this. And I ended up reaching out to them, and, we ended up building the final version, which ended up being very, very similar to the one I played against like a month before the World. So yeah, no, I have to thank Jody for that. I did end up reaching out to them.
And so talk to me about the team itself, and I guess why everything is trained the way it is.
Yeah, I guess I'll just start from the top down. Pelipper was actually this is a spread given to me from someone from Tub. Um, it's just very, very fast, very offensive. I feel like one of Pelipper's biggest weaknesses is it just drops. Like, no matter how much defensive investment you give it, no matter what you do, like no matter what nature you give it, you can give it a bold nature with max defense and everything, it'll just drop. It's very, very frail Pokemon. And until we have Politoed, there's literally no other. You have no other choice other than to run Pelipper. The manual rain is just so sorry, not the manual. The automatic rain is so key. I like the spread because it was just very fast, and it when I needed Pelipper to be faster than the opposing Pokemon such as Rillaboom or Heatran, it always ended up being faster. So I'm very happy with the spread. The Terra type is probably the point of the team I'm most disappointed in. It really should have been Ghost. And if you're running this team, I really would recommend trying out Ghost. Ghost just walls Ursaluna, and that ended up being my biggest shortcoming. And the reason it does that is because you Terra Ghost and you bring in Gholdengo, and you can just spam Wide Guard. and most Ursaluna sets can't touch you with Earthquake Facade. So right off the bat, that's something I would have. I guess that's the only thing I would have made a change in. It's the Pelipper Terra type because I ended up not tearing it very often at Worlds. I think it was twice it came. One time was very crucial, but I still would have traded that. The time in top four, the top eight set, where it really would have mattered versus one time it kind of mattered Terra Steel. So yeah, that's my Pelipper. Urshifu, again, I'm very happy with the spread. I'm very happy with the spreads across the board. This Urshifu always outspeeds Scarflanders, no matter their nature or their spread. So it always does that. I'm very happy with Terragrass. Terragrass came up very, very often at Worlds. I feel like Amoonguss got a little bit disrespected, and I'm very happy we didn't choose to disrespect Amoonguss because Terragrass came up a lot just to go around Amoonguss. Terrablast is something a lot of people laugh at, like Terrablast grass. It came up. It really did come up at Worlds, right? I Terrablasted a Gastrodon. I Terrablasted a ton of Urshifu. Alongside Chien-Pao, you always pick that KO up. So Terragrass, Terrablast ended up being very, very nice. The other moves are just you have to have them. Surging Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn. But yeah, the Urshifu was very, very basic. The Iron Hands, we ended up staying with Grass because, as you can see, one issue on this team is you don't have, a lot of teams, especially the ones that did very well at Worlds, you have dedicated Iron Hands, destroyers. Like the Iron Hands can't do anything versus them. That'd be Landorus, a lot of Rillaboom sets. It's just hands. There's board states where hands can't do anything. Our team didn't have a board state like that, and so you kind of needed every advantage you could get versus Iron Hands. And so Iron Hands, its most common partner is Amoonguss, and we ended up sticking with Grass because you just beat the Iron Hands Amoonguss combo much much better with Grass than Terra Water, which ended up picking up usage. Other than that, the spread I got from my friend Giovanni C. Not Costa, Polar Bear. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's a king of spreads. He's so good, and the spread ended up being so 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 nice. It came up so often. At one point in my top 16 set, this Iron Hands with Terra Grass, it took a Head Smash plus Moonblast from Fluttermane, and banned Arcanine, and it had a little bit of chip on it, and it still lived. It was just incredible. I couldn't say anything more about how incredible this Iron Hand spread was. So, I gotta thank Gio there. Among Us, very standard. I feel like a lot of people settle for bold with a lot of defensive investment. You live Icicle Crash, you live Ursaluna Facade, just standard stuff like that. Other than that, Mental Herb ended up being very, very nice against Taunt. Taunt was everywhere at Worlds. Every team had to have one or two taunts, or else you just struggled so much against Amoonguss. So I felt like Mental Herb kind of countered that wave of taunt. And as you saw in the world's winning team, even the Urshifu had taunt. Everything started carrying taunt. Rillaboom started carrying taunt. Every genie had taunt. If you had a genie, save Landorus at times, you had taunt on it. So Mental Herb came up a lot at Worlds, and it's something I never, I wouldn't drop it for anything else. Gholdengo, Terra Flying, a lot of people laugh at that too. I wouldn't change Terra Flying for anything. Ban Landorus with Terra Water ends up being a very, very tough matchup, and Gholdengo just constantly outspeeding majority of Landorus, Rillabooms, Heatrans, ended up being very nice with max speed. I always outsped the other Gholdengo. It came up one time in a set against it was Marco Fierro, and what this Gholdengo ended up doing was I ended up saving it game one, like not revealing the fact that it was max speed. And in game two, when Marco Fierro threatened a double KO with his Roaring Moon and his other Pokemon, I made it rain, and it ended up being faster than the Roaring Moon. So that was I couldn't say enough about how amazing max speed Gholdengo was. Citrus Berry lets it take 3 Wild Charges, so it's so frail that Leftovers really just doesn't do much. Citrus Berry allows it to live, Surging Strikes into Aqua Jet, stuff like that. So I really liked Citrus. Not much to say about Chien-Pao. I would have maybe considered Icicle Crash, but before Worlds, we ended up realizing that there's a lot of lines where you have to take the KO on opposing Tornadus, and the fact of the matter is you would have missed with Icicle Crash, and you really, really need to pick up with Chien-Pao. So I don't regret running Ice Spinner, but I definitely would have considered Icicle Crash the second time around.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess going back for some of the more unusual choices on the team, notably that you didn't talk about, notably the Rocky helmet on the Pelipper. How did you feel about that?
Ooh, I gotta listen. I feel like everywhere I see on ladder, even if it's not this team, any Pelipper team has been running Rocky Helmet. Listen, I can't take credit for any team building because I'm really bad at it. I'm gonna take credit for Rocky Helmet Pelipper. The original set was safety goggles Pelipper. This team ends up having a lot of Terra Grass, just a lot of Amoonguss hate, which is very very nice. But I want to take credit for Rocky Helmet because one of the worst things about Pelipper is it just gets doubled up on. And the nice thing about Rocky Helmet is, I guess the other issue we ended up having was Pelipper gets faked out a lot. It just gets faked out spammed. Because a lot of teams are actually very weak to Pelipper. Flying Stab is one of the best stabs in the game. Just hands down. It beats, Urshifu, Rillaboom, with Hydro Pump, it beats Heatran and after the Terra. So it ended up being actually a very threatening Pokemon in a lot of matchups. But the issue was it would just get fake out spammed. With Rocky Helmet, they're always taking something for faking you out. They're always, you always kind of put them in an awkward position where they can't really double you very safely. Surging Strikes into Pelipper is a death sentence, right? This Pelipper, 1v1's non-Icicle Crash, Chien-Pao. It 1v1's Terra, Urshifu. Hands, if it chooses to Wild Charge you, it's going to take 50%. After Recoil and Rocky Helmet. So I'm gonna take credit for this one. Rocky Helmet was an incredible decision, and I just loved it here because you just have to make a very very tough choice whether you want to leave Pepper on the field where it can spam its incredible stabs, or you take a ton of chip from Rocky Helmet.
Yeah, I like that decision a lot, and like you said, it's picked up popularity probably because you did so well with it. Um, and then the other question was your Amoonguss. You had Leaf Storm on the Amoonguss, which is not something I saw a lot of leading up to Worlds. Why did you choose to run Leaf Storm, and how did that fare for you?
Leaf Storm ended up being very very nice. I did miss Protect at times, but there is kind of a little bit of an Urshifu problem. You set up Rain for Urshifu, and then if your Iron Hands isn't healthy enough, you kind of struggle against it, especially the goggles versions. Neil was running safety goggles, Swords Dance, which would be a very, very big issue for this team if it wasn't for Leaf Storm. So Leaf Storm kind of really put a wrench in the, I'm going to save Urshifu for late game, especially the goggles teams. You couldn't do that anymore. And then, it ended up coming very, very clutch on a lot of sets. Even the stream set, it's just such a free Leaf Storm into Urshifu. It does a lot into Landorus. People forget this Pokemon has the same, or I guess higher attack set than Talonflame. So coming off a 130 base power move, it just does a ton of damage, and it really helps into like Dondozo. This team has a very very tough Dondozo matchup. Yeah, no, Leaf Storm is just very 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 helpful against water types, which this team doesn't do an incredible job of dealing with. You need Iron Hands to deal with that, and it can't deal with every water type across the game. It has a lot of matchups it has to come into. So Amoonguss would, really, really help Iron Hands in that regard.
And I guess I asked about whether you had worked with with Mike and Taran, but I noticed that a bunch of Italian players were also running a very similar team to yours. Did you? They did have some differences. They did run things like Icicle Crash, Chen Pao. They didn't run Terra Blast on Urshifu, stuff like that. But did you talk to them at all before the tournament, and how did you feel about their variant of the team?
No, I didn't end up talking to them, and in a way, I wish I did. I feel like when you combine both of our versions, it just makes the best version of Rain. I really love our spreads, and yet I really like a lot of the decisions they made. Again, like Terra Ghost, Pelipper ended up being a thing on a lot of the Europeans versions. I don't know if it's European or Italian, but whichever one of them, they made some really really nice decisions. I wish I guess we got to discuss with them. Like I played Luca Lucario, and while we talked about how we had played each other on ladder, how a lot of our team building choices had come from each other, and that was very cool to see. I just thought that was awesome. That this team had made it that far. We didn't end up talking to them, but a lot of our team building choices did come from influence from them.
Hmm.
So yeah, no. nothing but love to them. I ended up talking to Luca, during Worlds and after Worlds. They're really cool people. I'm very excited to work with them in the future, to be honest. But yeah, no, we didn't end up talking to each other before Worlds.
Yeah, I do always love to see two people with the same idea, and then sort of how the teams converge, especially once people start to get more secretive before Worlds, and the different decisions they make. And so obviously it was really cool to see Luca, I think, go undefeated in Swiss in day two, get ninth place overall, and then you of course got all the way to top eight. So two really successful performances with the with almost identical teams. And that being said, I know that a lot of the people he worked with, Mike, Tommy, Sohaib, Taran, all didn't do as hot, and so I'm good friends with most of them, and so I was asking them, hey, what was the difference? Or they were asking, I guess, what was the difference? Uh, and I think the conclusion was that you're just built different. You're just better. But I
No,
guess
they're too nice. No.
but one of the things I was curious about is how do you actually play the team? Did you feel like you played the team differently than the rest of the people you were building with? And what are your tips and tricks to using this?
I guess I wouldn't say I played it too differently. Um, I guess I did make a couple different decisions. Like I stuck with Terrablast. I'm a Terrablast warrior. Everyone else was running Aqua Jet. I'm all for Terragrass. I believe we did kind of get split on whether very defensive Pelipper was stronger or faster Pelipper, and I've always been on the very fast Pelipper. Um, I don't think I did anything like different. I can't say I had like any secret method or anything. I feel like when I think about this team, I don't think about a rain team. When I think about this team, I think about an Iron Hands Gholdengo team that is supported thoroughly by rain. Gholdengo gets supported by the fact that it doesn't have to deal with fire moves anymore, thanks to the rain. Iron Hands, you clear any ground types. Um, it's just it's literally, yeah. Like again, it's an Iron Hands Gholdengo team where rain is just helping clear the path for them. So I guess one thing that a lot of people picking up the team might not realize is you don't need rain in every matchup. You know, you really don't need Pelipper to come in every matchup. You don't need Urshifu to come in every matchup for Rain to do what it does, right? Like Rain just threatens so much respect. Like it demands so much respect. Like if you take away the Pelipper on this team, Heatran has just such an easy time against this team, and yet Pelipper, my opponents very rarely would bring their Heatran. In other examples, right? Like my opponents couldn't just spam Dazzling Gleams or Bleak Wind Storms or whatever Thunderous move is, because Pelipper demanded them to respect the Wide Guard option so much. And so I guess my biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone thinking about picking this team up is forget about Rain. Like forget about the fact that this is a Rain team. Try to think of it as a balanced team, an Iron Hands Gholdengo team, where Rain is demanding respect, where Rain is threatening anything that threatens those two Pokemon. Um, yeah, like just like overall, just forget about the fact that this is a Rain team. I guess it's a little bit hard to explain, but when you think about it in that sense, it does really make the team play different, and you feel very differently about a lot of matchups.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you have any like very concrete game plans going into the tournament, into any like specific matchups, or was it all just sort of look at team preview and kind of figure it out?
So I chose to be very fluid with my game plans. Not very concrete game plans. Of course, teams that are tough for this team include like Tailwind, which is not it's not terribly tough. It's just I guess Tailwind is one of those teams where you kind of have to respect every decision your opponent can make, and that decision can be anything. So like against Tailwind, I had a very concrete game plan going into Tailwind. That's the one match I had a very concrete game plan, and that was 90% of the time I would lead Iron Hands, Chien-Pao, and at the end of the turn, I needed either Chien-Pao to be alive, whether that be on Focus Sash or it didn't take any damage, or I needed the Tornadus gone. If either of those outcomes happened, I was in a good position, And if both of those outcomes happened, you're ahead. That was my game plan. It is, you have to KO the Tornadus if the option is there, and you have to keep Champ Hao alive if the option is there. You have to take both of those routes. That can mean protecting Champ Hao turn one and while charging the Tornadus. Or that can mean, letting the Gholdengo survive a turn if that means the Tornadus drops. Because Tornadus has a very, very good matchup in this team if it's in Tailwind. So you need that thing gone. You need that thing gone so you don't allow it to set up either a second Tailwind, or if they didn't click Tailwind, you don't want to give them the option to set up a Tailwind. If they have Sunny Day, you don't want to give them the option of setting up Sunny Day. You just don't want the thing alive. If they have things like Focus Sash or they Terra, then the other option is you need your Champ Hao alive. Because Champ Hao has such a good matchup in the Tailwind. Sucker Punch, lowering the defense stats for Iron Hands. All of that is so, so, so nice. So, yeah, like that's my concrete matchup into Tailwind. It was normally Iron Hands Champ Hao with Urshifu Pelipper in the back. And it was KO Tornadus turn 1. Get rid of that thing. Other matchups, like I guess a lot of people have asked, is Gholdengo, can you drop it? And the answer I have is it's always no. Gholdengo is so, so key to so many matchups. Anytime I saw a balanced team, I didn't know how to approach offensively. They had an Amoonguss set, for example, that was troublesome, with Leaf Storm or Rocky Helmet. Or they had, a Cresselia that I couldn't deal with instantly. I would always, always, always make my game plan around Gholdengo. And so, that's the other mode of this team. And it's the Gholdengo mode, which is so, so strong. I feel like a lot of people, again, they disrespect the Gholdengo. A lot of people assume right away that Fluttermane is the better Pokemon. Gholdengo's ability to, number one, survive multiple turns, especially with Citrus, it won't go down in one turn. And the other thing is, it just sets up Nasty Plot so easily in this format, I feel like. So yeah, that's the Tailwind option against Tailwind. And the game plan for balance was always, always, always crush on Gholdengo. Because Gholdengo is so, so, so good, and they have to respect it. If you realize they aren't respecting it in game one, just lead it and keep it alive. It does so much work against so many balanced teams. So those are my two very, very heavy game plans. I guess Trick Room was the other one. On ladder, through Terrifying Gholdengo, my Amoonguss is spread and its ability to live a facade, and the fact that this team early games very, very well, I was able to beat the majority of Ursaluna Crest players. And maybe that's why I got a little bit cocky, and I kind of forgot about the fact that Ghost Pelipper is very, very strong. And up until I played Fede Campo, every Ursaluna Crest player I could find a way around with Terra Flying and Rage Powders and Leaf Storms and Chimp House Sucker Punch, stuff like that. So the game plan against Ursaluna Crest is generally early game them with Chempao hands, or even Pelipper Urshifu, or Urshifu hands. Try to win that early game, because they would very, very rarely lead Crest Luna into your team. I say very rarely, they literally never lead Crest Luna. You have pivot options. If they do end up leading Crest, you can very easily pivot into Gholdengo, set up a Nasty Plot, stuff like that. So yeah, and then with Terra Ghost Pelipper, which if you're watching this, you should be running Terra Ghost Pelipper. Don't make my mistake. With Terra Ghost Pelipper, your back should end up being Pelipper and Gholdengo. And with that, Pelipper doesn't get one shot by Wild Charge plus Moonblast ever. You set up Nasty Plots for free, and just I guess Gholdengo's typing into a lot of the Trick Room modes, save Ursaluna, is very, very strong. So you can set up Nasty Plots very freely. Wide Guard spam to keep it up. If you brought a Moongus, you can Palm Puff it or Rage Powder for it. But yeah, using Gholdengo late game against Trick Room is probably the strongest way to beat it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so hopefully that's I know this is I think that this is going to be one of the more popular team at Pittsburgh Regionals, the Barcelona special event. I think a lot of people have seen how well Luca did with this team, and even Leonardo using a very similar team to make top cut. And I think this is going to be one of the teams to beat going into the regional season. So this is a great overview of how to use it if you want to steal it. But yeah, let's talk about your experience. So of course, Um, I was this your first time in Japan?
Yep, first time.
How did you tell me about your trip?
It was incredible. I guess one thing was how amazing Japan was. The people are so friendly. If people talk about the convenience stores, there's a reason for it. It was honestly, I would say one of the best things about Japan. I will never forget the 7-Elevens here. Constantly being able to, just walk down the street, grab something from 7-Eleven for what's literally $4, and feel full for, until dinner time. It was just Japan was incredible. Hotel was amazing. And the other aspect was meeting everyone I didn't get the opportunity to meet while I was in Vancouver. That was incredible. I spent my entire day, you know, most of the time with other Pokemon players. It was just so fun. It was so fun to both talk about Pokemon and just chill with chill with the people you love as people, right? Like people don't talk a lot about that about Pokemon. It's just how awesome the connections are with other people. So it was so incredible. I can't describe how fun it was to be at Japan, to be in such an awesome country, and then also to be with the people that I this might not have been everyone, but I didn't get to meet um, in person. So it was just incredible. I can't say enough about Japan.
Yeah. And how was tell me about the tournament experience itself? You, of course, did have to play through day one of the tournament. Talk to me about a few of the notable matchups that you had.
World is incredible. I just got to add that in before the experience of being at the World Championship. The incredible decor and the huge arena. It was just unfathomable. Like I teared up a couple times. It was just incredible, and I'll never want to stop playing Pokemon just for that.
So that means you're
Um,
coming to more events next year, right?
Hell yeah, no, there's no question. I'm definitely coming to more events.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad I finally got to meet you too. We'd spoken a little bit on like tub takes and stuff, but I'm glad we finally got to meet up at Worlds. And so yeah, I'm
Yep,
excited to see
exactly
you
that.
at more events.
Hell yeah, dude. I guess for day one, like after everything happened, right? Like I was just very happy to be there. I was just so excited to be there. Um, Noble matchups. I feel like day one was like I don't want to. I'm not disrespecting any of my opponents. I did feel like I generally had a good time through day one. Um, I guess two very notable matchups. I played Luca Tragut. Luca Tragut was, I guess one thing. I worked with Aaron Trailer quite a lot for Worlds, and one thing I ended up telling him is if I played either Luca Tragut, Emilio Forbes, or if I played my friend who made the Iron Hand spread, Giovanni, it was an insta loss. So I kind of put myself on the back foot by saying that, but at the same time, Luca played amazing. So Luca Lee just played a very, very, very strong game. He conditioned me very well. Game one he played a very defensive game. Game two, I kind of upped the offense on him a little bit. Push him into board states where he was kind of pinned. I feel like I played game two very well, and game three, he conditioned me in a way, right? So game one, I had a very free ice spinner into his, I believe it was Tornadus or either Rillaboom or Tornadus. After going for the ice spinner, I ended up ice spinnering his Heatran, which ended up being Rocky Helmet, and I ended up taking the Rocky Helmet chip, Fluttermane Dazzling Gleam, and took the KO. So I was very afraid of that combo because that's what ended up losing me game one. Game three, he ended up leading Tornadus Fluttermane, and I led Hans Chimpao. In hindsight, he really shouldn't be bringing Heatran into that kind of mode, but I feared it so much, I protected my Chimpao, and he conditioned me so well, he doubled up into the Iron Hand slot, and it was just done game one. It was just done turn one because like I said, after turn one, you need the Tornadus gone, and I just couldn't get that win condition. And so he conditioned me very well, and I was very, very, very impressed by his gameplay. He's someone I look up to a lot, and after seeing him play online, getting to play him in person, and him impressing me that much, I was very, very, I couldn't even be mad. I was just telling all my friends, dude, this guy is him. He's so good. So that was a notable matchup for me. The other one ended up being Alex Soto, and Alex Soto brought what was literally a nightmare matchup. This team kind of struggles against Dozo. Not kind of, it does. It's really struggling against Dozo. And what else? The other thing it struggles against, like I said, is Tailwind a little bit, especially very hyper offensive Tailwind. And it had Sunny Day. and he had a Sash Fluttermane, so I couldn't heavy slam it, and he had a Glamora, just that insult to injury. So that was
Wait,
unbelievable.
he had
And
a Glamora. Did he change his team between day one and day two?
yeah, he did. Yeah,
Oh,
Amoonguss
interesting.
was Tornadus. Oh, and he Specs Fluttermane. He was Sash Fluttermane and Life Orb Chiyu in day one.
Okay, so he made a lot of changes between day one and day two.
Yep, lots of changes. So yeah, no, that team was. I guess the six was Fluttermane, Chiyu, Tornadus, Glamora, Dozo, Giri. That team was very very tough. In the end, game two did end up coming down to. I don't think I won the game because of a crit, but the royal number one would have been very very close. Um, he would have had a lot more momentum. He would have had another turn to attack, and the game would have been close. But thanks to a crit, game two was sped up very very quickly, and game three ended up coming down to some very 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 close 50-50s. It was just 50-50s. Game three was after I got the Dondozo down, I had to win a ton of 50-50s, and I ended up creating his Tatsugiri with Drain Punch. That would have been a roll. I don't remember whose favorite was in, but it was a roll. So crit did end up helping me there. Regardless, it was just a very, very close matchup. And Alex Soto, that's one thing I'll say about all my Worlds opponents, where they were just very, very kind people. My game one was against a Japanese player who was very kind, even though he couldn't fully speak to me through English. My game two ended up being very, very kind player. Luca Trego was awesome to talk to. Kate ended up being a very nice player. Alex Soto was incredible, and round six was against one of my best friends. That one hurt a lot because we were doing very, very well, telling our group about how well we were doing, and we ended up playing each other. So I did end up knocking him out. That hurt pretty bad, knocking your friend out. But otherwise, day one was perfect. I got to play someone to look up to. I ended up losing, but I gained a lot of respect for him. I played Alex Soto, who doesn't look up to Alex Soto, and that was a very, very close match. And yeah, no, just day one was incredible.
Yeah. And so you moved on to day two. Did you ever consider making any changes between day one and day two?
Yeah. I did end up changing Pelipper. I don't know why, but I expected a lot more Reggie Drago. So my Pelipper was Terra Fairy. I ended up playing no Reggie Drago. I asked all my friends, they didn't play a single Reggie Drago. So I was like, Reggie Drago, I gotta get out of my head. I ended up being Terra Steel, which ended up being a better type defensively. You resist Shrimpao, among other things. So yeah, I ended up being Terra Steel, which I don't know how I got the two Terra types and I didn't realize Ghost was the best one. But yeah, that was the only change I made.
Gotcha. Um, yeah. And so talk to me about your run in day two.
Yeah. Round one I played. I think the rentals been going around. It's the Sheer Cold Choice Specs Articuno. I guess not much to say. It ended up being a very, very close set where, had I gotten a little bit unlucky, I could have lost pretty easily. I did end up getting a little bit unlucky in game two where my Gholdengo ended up being paralyzed by a Thunder Punch. But he kind of deserved it at that point, to be honest. He blizzarded so many times, he Thunder Punched so many times that it's kind of bound to happen. So I wasn't too upset about that. Game three ended up coming down to speed. My Pelipper ended up being faster than his Articuno, so I ended up winning the game three with that in game. Billa, like I dude, again, like these board splits were so nice. Billa was so nice to me. He was so nice to me after I ended up losing in Top Cut. He was so nice to me during the set. He was so nice to me like just between games. Like he was an incredible guy. Unfortunately, his Roaring Moon Breloom team ended up getting pretty hard walled by Gholdengo. So I used Gholdengo very effectively. I feel like in game one to beat him. Game two, I dropped the Gholdengo altogether because I felt like his game plan is kind of it's got to be beating Gholdengo, and I ended up getting that right. And so I beat him in two games, very fun games. Hirofumi, that was my favorite match probably ever. Hirofumi is someone I look up to. Again, who doesn't look up to Hirofumi? He's such a good player, and the one time I did end up playing him through a draft league, I got smashed. So this is kind of my redemption in my heart. Very, very close games. Game one, his Flutterman got a Calm Mind up, and I just got intimidated too often that, my Iron House couldn't do enough damage to it. I lost game one pretty convincingly. Game two was a lot more fast paced. He ended up being the Tailwind mode, and, that ended up being closer for me because I was much more comfortable in beating the Tailwind part of this team than the Choice Band Arcanine or Calm Mind Fluttermane, among other things. So game two was in my favor. Game three, he ended up doing a semi Tailwind version where he brought Tailwind in the back, but ended up bringing the Tornadus in very early. And after he got up Tailwind, I was in a pretty good position where it kind of would have been 50-50s. I felt like those 50-50s were my favorite, to be honest. Like, I'm very biased here. I felt like they were in my favor. They aren't 50-50s in that case, but what I'm saying. Like, we had to. It was kind of a prediction game, which I felt like was in my favor. I could get a couple wrong and still win. But my Pelipper ended up Hurricane confusing his Urshifu, and on a turn he protected, he hit himself in confusion. So that sealed up the game. I obviously, once again, I'm very biased on my own, in my own favor. I feel like I hit him with a couple of Hurricanes, none of which ended up confusing, and this is the second turn of confusion on his Urshifu. So I feel like I kind of, I'm not gonna say I deserved it. No one deserves hacks, but I feel like had that not even happened, like that would have been a very close game regardless. But yeah, it was just very fun to play Hirafumi. Awesome team. His team is so cool.
If he had run Detect instead of Protect, he wouldn't have hit himself.
No,
Like, that's
exactly,
the punishment.
exactly.
No, I said before the tournament that I thought Hirofumi was the best player in the world, and so and I
No,
remember
dude, like
looking at that
I
pairing
have
and
to.
saying this is so hype. Yeah, I wish I could. I don't think this was streamed, right? I wish I could watch this.
Nope. No, it was so close. He's played so well. But yeah, after that I ended up playing Marco. I kind of described the game earlier, but game one and I ended up so game one he crit my hands what ended up being I would have lived two heat waves on his choice specs Chiyu, but the second time around he missed the heat wave. So I feel like it was kind of luck kind of went both of our ways. Really, regardless, I ended up putting myself in a good position where he didn't end up seeing my third mon, or sorry, my fourth mon. So yeah, I felt like I took game one convincingly, and I hid the fact that my Gholdengo was faster than his Roaring Moon. I feel like the Roaring Moon spread has kind of gone around a lot by this group of players, and they're normally very slow. So I kind of had a hunch that my Gholdengo was faster, but yeah, I didn't save that until game two. Now in game two, it was much closer. He ended up using his Roaring Moon much more effectively, and his Amumi's positioning was very strong. On one turn, he threatened a double KO. I don't remember if it was a double KO or like a KO and then a Spore, but I was in a very bad position. But I had gotten a Nasty Plot up, and I set up the Nasty Plot, and then I KO'd his Roaring Moon by being faster. So that kind of, game two was kind of taken by the fact that I feel like I'm pretty proud of myself for the fact that I hid that fact, because I feel like it's it's kind of intuitive to do something in game one and then game two you have to deal with the consequences. But I feel like I did the opposite where I hid my best tool until game two, and so yeah, I'm proud of that game. Marco is one of my best friends. He's an incredible player, so it was very close. Even though most games he ended up not seeing my fourth mon, he played very well. Where a couple speed differences would have been pretty close. Mao Harada, I played him on stream, and I heard of his name. A couple of my friends played him. I guess that was a stream game, so I don't have to describe it too much. But basically, I recognize his matchup. Like, this team isn't anything special. Which that's not dissing him. That's kind of I'm more impressed by how far he took it for the fact that everyone had seen this team at some point. But yeah, I ended up leveraging the fact that again my Gholdengo was faster than his Landorus, and that ended up negating a lot of what Landorus could do. So my game plan was kind of set up Nasty Plot and try to go from there. Game one, like I didn't bring my Amoonguss. I expected him to respect my Amoonguss a lot more, which is it was a big mistake by me. He ended up playing very well in game one to beat me pretty handedly. Game two ended up, if you saw on stream, I was pretty. There was a point where my Amoonguss lived a double up. I thought my Amoonguss lived it most of the time. So yeah, like if you saw me on stream, like I wasn't too surprised. I felt like it would live, but it ended up being a lot closer than I realized. So yeah, that live and then a Nasty Plot read ended up being very, very favorable for me. And in game three, I feel like I used Amoonguss quite effectively into this team. Where there's a Goggles, there's a lot of Terra Grass. there's only one Terrorgrass, but no, there's a Goggles, there's an Amoonguss, there's a Terrorgrass Flutter Mane. I still feel like I positioned my Amoonguss quite well to where I threaten a lot of spores. My Amoonguss got a KO with Leaf Storm, so yeah, I feel like in general I played this matchup pretty well. It was very close though, so
I
I got to
think
give it to Mao.
I think there's a screenshot that Jody showed me that was like that was you saying, "Yeah, I think a lot of Japanese players are going to bring these six Pokemon, but they ought to lose to Amoonguss."
Yeah, dude, exactly. No, that's hilarious. No, that's I completely forgot about that. But yeah, I did say that.
And I mean, obviously, I don't know if you knew ahead of time they were going to be like on Taunt or Shifu stuff like that, but like, yeah, I mean, you proved it
No, I
right.
didn't. I didn't know that. But again, like Mensa Ramungus ended up being very, very good to where he couldn't just taunt it. But yeah, like a lot of the structure of these kinds of teams are pretty weak to Mungus, right? Like
Hmm.
you do have a lot of super effective damage. I guess one thing they had was a very, very cool tool with the Volt Switch, and I ended up playing Taro, who had the same team. They ended up both using the same strategy where if I was threatening a Spore, they would just Volt Switch, and it was very, very cool. That I feel like that tech was very, very cool and very, very underutilized. Iron Hands has been a Pokemon for a very long time. You know, I haven't seen anyone use it like they did, so that was very, very cool. Very, very cool from them. But yeah, like a lot of these teams, if you threaten spores, you can get a lot of pins. And yeah, like that's a really funny screenshot that I did realize. I feel like a lot of people realize that a lot of Japanese would be on this build because it's so strong.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, so that after that point you were 5-0, you guaranteed yourself a top cut at the World Championships. How'd you feel?
I um this ended up being something Calvin told me, Calvanix. Um when I played my last Taka game, it's don't get into your own head, focus on winning. And I definitely did not do that. When I was playing Luca, there's no notebook, nothing. I wasn't doing anything. I just had my Switch out and I was just thinking about my stream set the whole time. He played better than me, 100%. Like I can't say that the only reason I lost is because I was so dazed about the 5-0 into Top Gun and everything like that. But I kind of wish I showed him a better performance, but I couldn't because I was so excited about that. Um, and then Taro, um, I want to say similar thing. I can't use that excuse too often, but yeah, he ended up smoking me. Same team as Mao. I feel like he used a lot of what Mao didn't do, and that was like Terrapins and you know very, very good leverage on Amoonguss. He used that very, very well, and he smoked me. Like that game was not close at all. The game against Luke was pretty close. I took game one pretty handedly. Game two was pretty close, and game three, I don't remember what happened. It was something that happened, but it was very, very close. But Taro, he smoked me. Taro got me really, really good. Um, that was the first loss I ever took at Worlds where I felt like I had no chance. He played incredibly. So yeah, no, like I guess the one thing I can say to anyone listening is like wins are nice, but focus on your next win. Like take it one round at a time. I made a
Hmm.
big mistake of getting too caught up in my stream match afterward.
Yeah, I mean, did you know going 5-0 that you would have to win one more to get a bye?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And that's what makes it even sillier. Like I really should have been more focused.
Hmm. Well, the way I see it is you had three shots to get one win, right? To win your top 32 set, which is obviously you left it for the very
Yeah,
last
yeah.
chance, but you did get there.
Thankfully, yeah, thankfully.
So I don't have the bracket pulled up, but who did you play in top 32?
I ended up playing. Um, I know his name online. It's Scotch Tape, I believe
Oh,
it
you played
is.
Scott Ufushi.
Yeah, it's Scott Yufuchi. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So he's someone like I said, I trained a lot with Aaron Trailer. He ended up making a group where we did a couple best of threes during NIC. Scott ended up being someone there, and he smoked me. Like he destroyed me in those best of threes. So I feel like this is my time to get my get back. If it's gonna be any time, it's gonna be World. It's all love. I love Scott. He's such a good competitor. So I only mean it by respect, right? Like he's such a good player, and he destroyed me at that time. So I wanted to get my get back.
Hmm.
I did know most of his sets before the game, thankfully. Like I had friends who played Scott, and my game plan kind of was I didn't expect Landorus, and so I kind of disrespected Landorus. I expected a lot of Iron Hands Fluttermane. So funnily enough, like my game plan was pretty straightforward. I thought Rangers had a pretty good matchup into him, but he ended up completely throwing all my plans overboard. He did end up bringing Landorus. So, I wasn't prepared for Landorus at all. He ended up being very, very good reads. Turn one and turn two, he ended up getting, I think he got a KO and Landorus did a lot to another Pokemon. But, I was in a pretty bad position. It ended up coming down to a 50-50 where I expected his Landorus to protect in front of my Chimpa, and I ended up getting that read right, and I took damage on Baxcalibur instead, and that ended up sealing the game. So I was happy to even get away with that game because again, like he was very ahead at the start. But game two, I feel like I played much better game two, respecting Landorus more. He ended up being like Landorus, I believe it was Baxcalibur hands Amoonguss, and at one point he brought Fluttermane over Baxcalibur. I feel like in general I just respected his Amoonguss and his Fluttermane a lot, when it ended up being like the biggest problems. Oh, dude,
I found the screenshot.
this that's awesome. No, I did end up saying they have taunt more than one mon.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So you had the counter team ready. You knew it was up.
No, like this team is incredible. And yeah, like I'm happy I could get away with that claim that a lot of Asian players about it would bring it.
Yeah, you were right. You had the better call. Sorry, I interrupted you as you were talking about
No,
yourself,
that's
Scott.
hilarious. I love that. I love that screenshot. But yeah,
Um,
no, Scott game was just a mix of Rain doing a lot and his Baxcalibur kind of getting walled by Gholdengo.
mhm.
But yeah, no, I feel like all love to Scott. He played very well, and I'm very proud of him. I believe it was his first Worlds. I don't know. I
I think
might be
this was
wrong.
his first Worlds. I'm not sure.
I think so.
But yeah, no. I mean, he had a crazy run too, coming out of day one, making it all the way to top cut, and so I was really really proud of him as well. He's a friend of mine. Um, and it
Awesome.
was
Yeah,
it
no,
was
he's
it was
awesome.
it was a shame to see you two play each other in top cut. Would have loved to see both of you move further,
Exactly, dude.
but
Exactly. It kind of hurts at Worlds because I feel like um the only thing about Worlds is that you are always playing someone you know,
mhm.
and it kind of hurts to either beat someone you look up to, and knock them out, or play someone you know that you would love to see do well. Because it really pains inside. Like it felt really really bad knocking out my friend from day one, or being one of the reasons he got knocked out. That hurt really bad because I wanted to see both of us succeed, but the game kind of pushes you to you have to choose someone, and that someone always ends up being yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's just how it is, right? And sometimes, I mean, that's just how pairings work. Sometimes I know two of my friends, Austin Acosta and Chase Tiki. They're both from
No, dude,
Austin. They played
that
each
was
other round one.
unbelievable.
We play each other
That
at
was actually
locals all the time, and they
ridiculous.
played each other round one and halfway around the world. It was so silly.
It was
Um,
ridiculous. No, dude, I couldn't believe when I heard that.
that's just how it goes sometimes, you know. Um,
Yeah,
but but yeah, so you beat Scott, and then you had your top 16 match, and I forget who you played there too.
Utah.
Played Utah. Okay.
Same team as um, same team as Hirofumi, but
Hmm.
he did not have um he didn't have Calm Mind number one, which ended up being very nice. Taunt ended up being again not very impactful because of my mental herb, and he had mental herb on Tornadus and not Rocky Helmet, which ended up being much 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 easier. Which means I can preserve Sash on my Chimpao. I can one shot it with 30 strikes with my multipliers with Rain and Chimpao. So yeah, it ended up being a lot easier because of some differences. But regardless, he ended up being a very very kind opponent. Like what can I say? My opponents were so kind, and I feel like a lot of people had the same experience. Like again, there was a language barrier, but we followed each other on Twitter. You talked as best as we could. He was just an incredible guy. So yeah, no, it ended up being a lot easier than the Hirofumi team. He ended up playing around Arcanine a lot more than Hirofumi, and Arcanine ended up being very, very impactful. But like I said, my game plan did prove effective. A lot of the games just came down to he led Tornadus, I KO'd at turn one, and I end game with my Rain mode. And again, my hand spread was so good. I think my hands took a little bit of chip from something. I don't remember what. I think it was like a fake out or maybe Moonblast, something like that, or something like Bleak Wind, something like that. But it ended up living Head Smash plus Moonblast as a Terra Grass, and that was just I didn't expect it to live, and it was so pivotal there. But regardless, it was kind of a matchup where I felt like my prep was very impactful. It just ended up being hands uh hands Shenpao lead with Urshifu and Pelipper in the back both times, and yeah, and I took it in 2 games, and I'm very thankful that I took it in 2 games because had I not, it could have come down to sudden death, and you know I don't know how the matchup is in sudden death. Who knows how matchups are in sudden death? But
Hmm.
I had no clue, and it could have been very different had it come down to sudden death.
Yeah, certainly, especially with the just existence of Urshifu denying protects, I feel like it's very
No,
volatile.
exactly, dude.
Apparently,
It's so. I guess I'm not preaching to anyone. Everyone knows this, but it was just so unfair what happened to sudden death. But yeah, like very thankful I didn't have to do sudden death.
yeah. I'm glad you didn't have to deal with that either, because that was a whole mess. Obviously, we've talked about that extensively. That's been, everyone's kind of heard at this point what went
Right.
down. But yeah, you were just too good. You just won too quickly and got away with it. Um, and so yeah, so then you moved on to top eight, and I believe you played Fede Campo. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk
So
to me
Fetty,
about how that went.
yeah, Fetty is someone I look up to a lot. I feel like you can look up to a lot of players, and of course, Fede is someone everyone looks up to. Um, I feel like one thing he's very humble, and he's very easy to talk to. So I praised him on Twitter the day before this. He had to play with only 5 Pokemon. He lost his Ursaluna, and so I was very impressed by the fact that he kept that mental fortitude, and the fact that he just won all his games without a Ursaluna, right?
Hmm.
Regardless, I knew he'd be tough. This is where I really wish I had Terragos Pelipper, because you end game the team much better when you can wide guard spam with Gholdengo, and this Ursula set just can't touch it. But yeah, regardless, I feel like I don't have much to say. Like, I got smoked. Yeah, I played pretty badly. Um, you know, I'll always have to remember the fact that I drain punched the Cresselia 3 times, but I really felt like he'd ally switch, and maybe I read too hard into that. Um, bad plays by me. Um, again, I feel like number one, the Ghost Pupper of course would have helped, but I definitely did feel like the fatigue coming after this. This is my 16th set in 2 days.
Hmm.
And it's different than Vancouver, where Vancouver I played 17 sets, but not every set was against a world's caliber player. All of which are vying for day two. All of which are in day two trying to get top cut. You're not. There's a different level of mental stress. And I did feel like a lot of my gameplay was kind of neutered. Like I feel like I played really bad. Um, I'm not part of the set. I think about it a lot, and I think about what could have been. But to put it short, he played a lot better. I'm very proud of Fede. He's someone you just you love to see do well. I'm very happy that if I had to lose to anyone, it was Fede Campo. So yeah, nothing but love for him. He played very well. He caught me in a lot of turns. Um, he seems awesome. He seems awesome, and I should have put more respect on it. Um, should have done more testing. But regardless, he played much better than me, and I'm excited for the next time we play because now lots on the line.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, and like you said, you drain punch Cresselia. I think that, especially when you said maybe the matchup is a little uphill, you kind of got to be willing to make a play. You got to be willing to make a read over here and there
right?
every so
Exactly.
often. And
Yeah.
so, um, uh, even though you got those turns wrong, like doesn't mean that it wasn't an option that you were covering. And it's I think that getting all the way to top eight, no shame in losing to Fede Campo. Obviously, top four at Worlds. He's one of the best players in the world. And you just had such an incredible run the entire 2 days of Worlds. So just really impressed by your performance, and really cool team that you managed to put together to use.
I really appreciate the love. And that's for everyone, right? Like I guess after top eight, and I've never really gotten over it. Um, I feel like human beings work in such weird ways. Had you told me a day before Worlds, how would you feel getting top eight at Worlds? I would have I wouldn't have believed you. And I think there's a screenshot my friend Tyson has, Charisma Check, where he says, if you keep up your gameplay and you don't tilt, you can get top eight. And I kind of like, I kind of told him to shut up for a second. That's not even possible. How can you even consider getting top eight? Um, but yeah, like, I guess human beings will work in weird ways where it hurt a lot. And you know, I guess I'm not like obsessed with it for the fact that I'm doing regular human things and then it comes up in my mind and I feel really bad all of a sudden. But definitely when I play Pokemon, when I practice Pokemon, it comes up a lot where it's like what could have been, and it feels really bad that you know you can't be happy about something you should be happy about. Like
Hmm.
it's a weird mindset where I know that top eight is good, but I don't feel like it's good. And
Right.
I wish I could have gone further. You have everyone telling you that it's such a good performance, you did such a good job, and you don't feel like you did a good job. It's a weird mindset. It's a very very weird slump to be in. But yeah,
I'm
no, like
Well, either you win every other tournament that you play in, or you start to eventually get used to not winning. But no, I get what you mean. I definitely like looking back at like all the regional top cuts and all my losses there. I can still remember basically every turn. Just like it's so easy to think about your losses, but at the end of the day, like um, it's such an incredible accomplishment, and I think that you have to celebrate your success and learn from defeat, right? And that's just how it is every match, but especially this sort of match. And now you've been there, you've shown that you can get top eight at Worlds, and now I have no doubt that you're going to you get. I'm looking forward to the run back next year, and I think that you can run it
hell
and
yeah.
do it one more time. So
No, dude, I really appreciate the love. From you, from everyone. I just like nothing but love. That's all I got.
hmm
Um, it's just I really love Pokemon for that. I really can't. I mean, like I told you, every single one of my opponents I played, just the kindest people. We had long talks before the set, after the set. Like Alex Soto. I like Billa. One of the kindest things Billa said. We got together on the table, and I didn't think he'd know who I was, and he came up to me and said, I'm a big fan of yours, and that just that meant so much because all these players mean so much to me. I look up to a lot of them. Like there should be a counter of how many times I said I look up to them, but I look up to so many of these world's players, and it meant so much. Like I feel like it's kind of undescribable when this is something that happened to me at Worlds. I met the player I look up to the most ever since I started VGC. I look up to them, and when one of my friends introduced me to them, I didn't expect them to know me, and hearing that, yeah, I know who you are, and shaking their hand, that just, I mean, like, what other game can that happen in? What other experience can that happen in other than Pokemon? And so, this world was just so incredible. So much love, so much passion. Like all these people want to be number one. Not a single person here, would settle for number two. And so, out of all that commitment, out of all that hard work, all that time, to look up to it, to look at your opponent who just beat you, and to show them that amount of love, like I have nothing. There are no words to describe how awesome it was to be there.
absolutely, that's one of my favorite things about the Pokemon community is just how friendly everyone is, how gracious people are in defeat more often than not, and gracious in victory too. And it's just it really is just a fantastic community. And you were talking about how many people you look up to, but I think especially after this season, I think a lot of people are looking up to you and looking at your performances, looking at winning your first regional. Yeah, honestly, you, Justin, and Michael Derbesti coming in their first season playing, and achieving such high accomplishments, showing the world that like with enough practice, with enough practice and with enough heart, you can really achieve your goals is inspirational for a lot of us, including a player like me who's been around for a long time. It really is incredible to see newer players come and do so well. Even the first tournament do so well. It really drives me and motivates me as well. So I think you're going to get a lot of people coming up to you at your next tournament, telling you how inspirational you are to them. So
That means so much because I don't have the words. I feel like I don't know. I'm just so thankful for this opportunity. And I hope like you said, I hope everybody knows that you put enough time, you put enough commitment, you put enough heart into it, like you can do anything you dream of. I like it. It never would have crossed my mind that you know I really believe that Vancouver would have been that one tournament I played in, and I got that experience, and then I never ended up playing in any more Pokemon tournaments. That's really what I thought of Vancouver. That's really what I thought it would have been. But then to have all this come out of it, like it's undescribable, dude. I'm so happy I got to meet everyone I met. I'm so happy I got to talk to everyone I talked to. I'm so happy I got to, you know, I'm so happy I got to go through this experience. No words to describe. What you said to me is so kind. And what everyone is saying is so kind. And yeah, I just can't say anything but yeah, thank you to everybody.
Yeah. Well, I guess to start to wrap things up, I do want to recommend everyone tries this team out. Again, I do think this is going to be one of the best teams that you can use for the rest of this format, going into Pittsburgh, Barcelona, maybe one of the teams to beat. And we've got a rental code on screen if you want to try it out. The paste will be in the description down below. And then Abdullah, did you have any final words or shout outs that you wanted to give?
I guess I'll keep it short because I always forget someone and then I feel really, really bad. I just want to thank everyone I work with. Um, from that very tight group of Taran, Jody, Mike, Dandy, all of you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you to Aaron Trailer, who one of the kindest people I've met. He's such a grinder, and I love that for him. We played so many best of threes leading up to Worlds. I want to thank all my team building groups, even the ones I didn't end up working with strictly for Worlds. You learn so much from all of them. I want to thank Tub. I got the opportunity to work with you guys. I think you joined the group right at the end, but
I joined right as you said. You're not using the team.
right. No, I got the opportunity to talk to you guys, which is so amazing. You guys are, from the start, using Nails' team and winning with that, and how much love he showed me, and how much love Tub showed me. I really gotta thank you guys for all that. And thank you for everyone for supporting me. Just anyone who sent me a message or came up to me and said, I really look up to you. All that means so much to me that I can't describe. I just want to thank everybody. A lot of people, they don't realize how big of an impact you have on them, but everything everyone does means so much to me. So thank you to everybody.
Yeah. And thank you for coming on the channel, sharing your team, saying all those kind words about so many different people, and sharing your experience. And of course, since you're not going to do it, apparently I get to do it. You did tweet recently that you are doing coaching, so if you want to learn from Abdullah, you should definitely reach out to him, because you're not only such a fantastic player, but also so well spoken. So I think that anyone could learn a lot going into the first couple events of the season.
Thank you so much for that, dude. I really, really, really appreciate that. And thank you. I guess since the start, you've been very, very kind to me, and like a lot of people, you've just been very, very supportive, and I really appreciate this a lot.
Of course, I do my best, and this channel doesn't exist without people like you who are willing to come on and talk about your experiences and talk about your teams. And again, I just really appreciate you coming on the channel, talking about your team. So yeah, those are all the questions that I had. And congratulations once again, world's top 8, an incredible performance. I know you're talking about how you want to go further. Of course, everyone does, but still, that's just such an incredible performance, especially for your first World Championships, your second tournament ever, and it was really, really cool to see you go that far. So yeah, thank you again for coming on the channel, and until next time, I'll see you all later.
See y'all.